Caitlin Clark was one technical foul away from missing a crucial game, facing an automatic suspension and a $1,500 fine. And then the WNBA made a decision that changed everything. On August 8th, the Indiana Fever defeated the Chicago Sky 90-86, but the biggest story after the game wasn't only the score. It was what happened to Caitlin Clark late in the third quarter. Clark was forced toward the sideline after contact with Chicago's Natasha Cloud, and as Clark's momentum carried her out of bounds, she made contact with an official. In real time, the referee ruled the contact intentional and assessed Clark a technical foul. That single whistle suddenly became a massive issue because it was Clark's 8th technical foul of the season. And 8 wasn't just another number. It put Clark at the threshold for an automatic one-game suspension. Suddenly, the Fever weren't simply dealing with a controversial call. They were potentially losing one of their most important players for their next game. Clark, however, didn't seem interested in turning the situation into a huge argument after the final buzzer. When asked about the play, she explained that she had already watched the footage and believed the contact wasn't intentional. Her attitude was essentially simple. Let the league look at the replay and make the decision. And that replay became extremely important. From another angle, the sequence appeared to show Clark being bumped by Cloud before her momentum carried her toward the official. That raised an obvious question. Was Clark actually trying to make contact with the referee? Or was the contact simply the result of the play happening so quickly? Fever head coach Stephanie White clearly believed the call deserved another look. White herself received a technical while disputing the decision, showing just how strongly Indiana disagreed with the ruling. But the most important part of this story happened after the game, when the league reviewed the incident. The WNBA ultimately rescinded Clark's 8th technical foul. That meant Clark would not serve the automatic one-game suspension, and the $1,500 fine connected with reaching that threshold was avoided. Her total went back down to 7. And just like that, the conversation changed. Instead of asking whether Clark would be available for her next game, fans could start talking about the basketball again. And there was plenty to talk about because Clark had just delivered an impressive performance in the Fever's 90-86 victory. She finished with 26 points and 11 assists, while Kelsey Mitchell scored 27 points and extended her remarkable streak of consecutive games with at least 20 points. But let's go back to the technical because this is where the story becomes bigger than one whistle. Technical fouls are part of professional basketball. Players argue, emotions rise, officials make judgment calls, and sometimes those decisions are reviewed. That's part of the sport. The interesting thing here is the consequence attached to Clark's 8th technical. A normal technical might simply mean a free throw or a penalty. But when a player reaches the league's suspension threshold, suddenly the impact becomes much larger. One whistle can remove a player from an entire game. That's why Clark's situation attracted so much attention. She wasn't simply trying to avoid a fine. She was trying to avoid missing time with her team. And Indiana had a major reason to want her available. The Fever were heading into an important stretch of the season, and their next matchup was against the New York Liberty. The reversal meant Clark would remain available for that game. Now, here's where opinions begin to split. Some fans looked at the replay and immediately believed the technical was obviously too harsh. Others argued that officials have to protect themselves, and that any intentional contact with an official has to be taken seriously. But the key point is that the WNBA reviewed the play and decided the technical should not stand. That's the confirmed outcome. It's important not to turn that decision into something it wasn't. There is no need to claim that the league reversed the call because of television ratings, money, Caitlin Clark's popularity, or outside pressure unless there is evidence proving that. The simplest explanation is the one supported by the outcome. The league reviewed the footage and rescinded the technical. And that distinction matters because Caitlin Clark is already under an enormous spotlight. Every game she plays receives intense attention. Every argument with a referee can become a viral clip. Every hard foul can become a debate. And every technical foul gets magnified because people know how close she is to the suspension threshold. That's the reality of being one of the most recognizable players in the WNBA. Clark's competitive personality is also part of what makes these situations interesting. She plays with emotion. She reacts to big moments. She talks. She competes. She doesn't appear interested in removing the intensity from her game. But there's a difference between controlling your emotions and eliminating them. The challenge for Clark now is finding that balance. She returns to 7 technical fouls, meaning the issue hasn't completely disappeared. If another technical is assessed and upheld, the suspension conversation could return immediately. That makes every future interaction with officials potentially important. And this is where Clark's teammates and coaches become important too. A player doesn't have to carry the entire emotional burden alone. Coaches can communicate with officials. Teammates can help keep situations under control. And Clark can focus on what she does best, creating plays, scoring, passing, and competing. Against Chicago, she showed exactly why Indiana wants her on the floor. 26 points and 11 assists isn't just a headline. It demonstrates the impact she can have when she's controlling the game offensively. She also shot 5 of 6 from three-point range, making her performance even more efficient. And while the technical foul controversy dominated social media, the actual basketball story was that Indiana found a way to win a competitive game on the road. Kelsey Mitchell's scoring streak continued, Clark contributed heavily, and the Fever walked away with another important victory. So what should fans take away from this? First, Clark isn't suspended. Second, the technical foul was officially rescinded. Third, Clark remains at 7 technical fouls. And fourth, the controversy is a reminder of just how much attention follows every moment involving her. The WNBA's decision doesn't mean every future technical involving Clark will be overturned. In fact, the next one could be completely different. If Clark receives another technical and the league determines it was justified, the consequences could again become significant. That's why this isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of another chapter. Clark now has to move forward without allowing the suspension possibility to dominate her thinking. She has already said that she doesn't want to play with the fear of another technical constantly in the back of her mind, because that could affect her natural style. That's understandable. Imagine trying to play professional basketball while thinking about whether every reaction could cost you a game. At some point, the player has to trust the process and focus on basketball. And that's exactly what Clark has the opportunity to do now. The league has made its decision. The technical is gone. The suspension is gone. The fine is gone. What remains is 7 technical fouls and a season that is moving toward its most important stretch. For the Fever, that's good news. They need their star guard available. For Clark, it's an opportunity to put the controversy behind her and keep building momentum. And for WNBA fans, it creates another fascinating storyline to follow. What happens the next time Clark has a heated exchange with an official? Will she adjust anything? Will she continue playing with the same intensity? And if she reaches the threshold again, will the league's decision be just as closely examined? Those questions don't have answers yet. But one thing we know is that every Clark game now carries another layer of drama. And that's exactly why this story exploded. A moment that lasted only seconds turned into a suspension debate, a league review, and a complete reversal. Caitlin Clark went from potentially missing her next game to being cleared to play. And the reason wasn't a mysterious rule change or a secret decision. It was the league reviewing the play and determining that the technical should be rescinded. So now the question goes back to you. Do you think the WNBA made the right decision by rescinding Caitlin Clark's 8th technical foul? Was the original call simply too harsh, or should the technical have remained? And with Clark now back at 7 technical fouls, do you think she can stay below the suspension threshold for the rest of the season? Let us know in the comments, because this is one debate where WNBA fans clearly have strong opinions. And if you want more Caitlin Clark news, Indiana Fever stories, WNBA controversies, game analysis, and the biggest moments in women's basketball, subscribe to Hoop Queens WNBA. Because the technical may be gone, but Caitlin Clark's season is far from over, and the next chapter is already waiting on the court.